and still very much athletes and wanted to be a part. So they that November, I believe it, like I said, 2011, they made a commitment to themselves to meet up every morning at 6:30 every day in November, and then it just sort of spiraled on. They invited people to join them, and so that community grew in Boston, and then they just spread to different cities. There are people, that knew about the Boston group, and now they have pledge groups. There is a whole process now to actually become an official November Project city, but it's up to 50 now, 8 years later.
And 50 cities. So are there multiple November Project groups in certain states?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I think there's two in New York City. There's a New York City group, and there's a Brooklyn group. Because that's a big city, so sometimes getting to those workouts. And I think there's a couple in Los Angeles. So not necessarily. I think those are the only two cities that have multiple. But yes, there's a couple in different states. And
does everyone that does the November Project, are they runners, or is it people from all walks of life, or all athletic types?
All athletic, and people actually who maybe weren't even athletes, but have come to it later on in life. But yeah, like I said, it was started by two rowers. But yeah, our group does a Sunday special. They feature someone each week on Instagram every Sunday, and I've learned about different people that way. Some people were collegiate field hockey players and all different sports.
And you guys just did a team cross country race. Was that what I saw?
So this past weekend was the Philadelphia Mayor's Cup, and it's a competition between all the running groups in Philadelphia. So I think there was 30 plus groups involved, and it's actually 5 different races. So there was a 5K cross country race.
Was that at Fairmont?
5-mile road race. In Fairmont. It started at Belmont Plateau.
A place called the Plateau is where everybody go.
Yep. A 5-mile road race, a 10K trail race, a 10-mile road race, which is what I did, and then there's a half marathon trail race. So people from the different groups sign up for the different races, and then the top male and female from each team in each race score, sort of cross-country style.
How did the November Project do?
We got third in the team competition. Yeah, which was good, considering I think we got third behind the Philadelphia Runner Track Club, which is sort of, elite level runners. And I think it was the second place team was the Bucknell cross country alumni, which, collegiate runners. And
they always have a good
we're sort
alumni
of
group.
a riffraff of athletes and stuff. So we were pretty proud of that.
And how was the 10-miler for you?
It was good for the first 7.5.
What happened?
I kind of died on an uphill that was a mile and a half, and then I brought it home for the last mile. But overall, yeah, we had actually a really good weather-wise, so that helped.
Not too humid?
No, it broke for the day.
Nice. And so you're in preparation for Chicago Marathon, correct?
Yes, coming up in 2 months.
How's that going? I mean, I know you're just like us, where you're active 20, year-round, 365. Is there much of a buildup that goes into it? How much will you ramp up from, say, September to was it the first weekend in October?
It's I think it's the 13th.
13th?
October.
Okay.
Yeah. I sort of had the last month sort of building back. I hate to make excuses. However, I'm not great running in this summer weather, so I'm sort of suffering through some workouts. But, distance-wise, we'll probably start to ramp it up in the next month.
Have you done Chicago before?
No, this will be my first.
It's your first, okay. It's fast.
But, I'm sorry?
It's fast, the course.
I heard it's flat, so that should be interesting because that's good and bad.
Yeah,
I'd like to say I hate hills. I sort of do well on hilly courses.
and it's good just to mix it up, work some different muscles. I know in the longer endeavors, sometimes it just gets to the point where it's like, oh, I just want to hike a little bit. And then when you've had enough hiking, you're like, I just want to run downhill.
Yep.
And then when you've had enough of that, you're like, oh, I just want to run on the flat. So I feel for you.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I don't know if I've ever run a particularly flat course. That's pretty much mostly that. I've run a lot of Boston.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm excited for Chicago because it'll be eventually a goal is the 6-star, the World Majors.
Oh yeah.
So this will be my 3rd star. I'll have all the, God willing, I finish the race. It'll be my 3rd on this United States side, and then I'll have to work on the 3 stars internationally.
So that's New York, Boston, Chicago, London, Paris, Berlin?
No, London, Tokyo, and Berlin.
London, Tokyo, and Berlin. Okay.
You just mentioned those 6 stars and that being a goal. And as Richie said before, we've all kind of been lifelong athletes. And I know we all have those lulls and some days not wanting to get out the door. But what keeps you motivated besides maybe those six stars on, days where you might not have a race coming up or anything? What keeps you motivated to stay fit and get out the door on a regular basis?
It's hard when I don't have a race coming up. I will say after Boston this year, in April, until last month when I sort of started focusing on Chicago, there were a bunch of mornings where, the alarm went off and I was like, you know what? I've got nothing coming up. I can sleep in now because there's nothing on my training plan right now. So races really do keep me focused. When I don't have a race, I do like to take it a little slow, but I think that's helpful to me. I think not always going 100% has helped keep me healthy. Knock on wood, relatively few injuries. So I think that whole cycle between races has been good for me.
Do you have anything between now and Chicago?
I did, like I said, I just did the 10-miler last weekend. I have a 10K race, not this coming Sunday, but the next. And then I'm doing a half marathon a month before Chicago.
Which one is that? Is that the Runner's World?
No, I'm going to do, there's, a few steps from my door. I get to walk down to the starting line, the rock and roll half here in Philly.
Oh, yeah, that used to be the Philadelphia Distance Run, right?
Yeah, long before my time here.
And that kind of does the same loop that we did in 2024, right? You go down Kelly Drive? Or is it different now?
Yeah, there's a sort of a out and back and then around the river. It's not that loop. It goes into the city and up into Fairmount Park a little bit. So.
Okay. One other thing I want to ask about the November project. I see the people wearing their jerseys and stuff like that. Is that something where they have a stencil and you guys are making them?
Yes, they call it the grassroots skier. So typically once a month, you bring a shirt and you get it tagged. And unfortunately, I haven't been to many other November Project cities, but you can bring your shirt, and each they call it tribes. Each city is a different tribe. You have your own little stencil. So ours here in Philadelphia is the Liberty Bell.
Oh, okay.
And each city has their own little, New York is the Big Apple, and Boston itself, because because that's the original. They're just November Project. They don't have a little logo. But, yeah, each city has their own thing, and you can bring a shirt to a different city and get a tag. People like to call them their passport shirts, and it's sort of a little badge of honor, and it's a fun thing. And, you know, that's the other good thing about November Project, because when you go to different cities, even just on vacation or elsewhere, you know, there's someone to work out with.
That was my follow-up question. Have you dropped in at other November projects throughout your travels?
I have tried once when I was down in D.C. I was going to go meet up with their tribe one weekend when I was there, but my train got stopped and I was stuck somewhere in Maryland for hours, so I didn't make it. The only other tribe I've been to is down in Orlando.
All right. How was that compared to Philly?
It was good. When I was there, they were a fairly new group. But yeah, it's nice to have a welcoming space when you go to a different place and like-minded people.
I'm looking here. It looks like we are 5280 is our little logo or icon for Denver.
Oh, okay. Yep. That's your area code, right?
Correct.
No, that's the elevation.
Okay.
We were touching on it before. You went to school in Boston. Boston has a special place in your heart. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe your first Boston Marathon, you kind of just jumped in without a number and
banned it.
Yeah, it's bad. That was long before, you know, obviously that was before the bombings and before banding was still sort of an accepted thing back then.
That was like 1995, I think.
What, when Jamie did it?
When you banded it? That was like...
No, it was 2000.
No,
I was in
2001.
middle school.
That was the first time?
Yeah, it was my my senior year of college.
Oh, I thought it was earlier than that.
No. Yeah, my first marathon, I banded it at a marathon.
And that was, I mean, it's crazy because now there's no way that could even be possible.
Oh, no. I mean, you know, you've done Boston, Rich. You know the whole getting on buses and checking things. I mean, that first race, my dad drove me and a friend to some sort of location, and we got on one of those buses. Even my dad went out to the starting line.
Really?
Yeah, and he just walked into the athletes' village, and, you know, I mean, we got at the end of the line. We didn't try to get into someone else's corral, but it was a thing. There were several hundred people that did that.
Yeah, it was definitely a thing where that was part of the Boston experience for people that lived in that area that would just show up at the starting line and I'm going to do Boston today.
Yeah, I mean, David McGilvray, the race director for decades here in Boston, even banded it back in the day when he was a youngster.
How many Boston Marathons have you done at this point?
So this past year was 8 official and 9 unofficial.
and so in those 9 years, and obviously the bombing happened a couple years ago, how much has it changed and how much has it grown in those 9 years?
Well, like I said, the first one was in 2001, so that was a totally different experience. And I even think, I mean, Boston, what it is now after the bombing, even though it was a special race before and hard to get into, it's even more now. So in a lot of people, that's like the ultimate. I just think for Boston, for the mere mortals, like people who aren't Olympians or elites, it is like sort of like our Olympics, our, you know, the highest peak that you can do because it is so hard to qualify for.
Will you continue to do it year after year?
Well, I actually originally, so 2012 was the first year that I actually finally qualified for and ran it. That year, it was 90 degrees. I think that was the first year that they were allowed people to defer because they don't